Welcome to another video. This is a video that I decided to do spontaneously as we are closing in on 2021. I was looking over my reading and everything that I loved, and I decided that I wanted to share my top favorite romance books that I read in 2021. This is not necessarily books that came out in 2021. These are books that I just happened to read in 2021 that I loved. I have books in here that came out like I think about 5 years ago or 6 years ago, and I only read them in 2021. So yeah, I think I'm also going to do a part two. What is that language? Oh my god. Part 2 of this video where I talk about fantasies, fiction, non-fiction, because I do have a lot of those books as well that I absolutely loved and I want to share them all with you. So I'm going to be filming a part 2 to this video because I was going to do all of them together, but I just found that was going to be too messy and I cannot talk for that long. Okay, I cannot talk for that long because even sitting down and doing this video, I have my water here. Like, it's a lot of talking. Okay, I love talking, but I also love quiet. So it would have been too long. So I'm going to split them into part 1 and part 2. So look out for part 2, which will follow next week of me releasing this video. I hope you understand what I mean. But yeah, so without further ado, let me share with you my top 10 favorite romance books that I read in 2021. So all of these books are 5 stars. I rated all of them 5 stars. That's how you know they are my favorites. And I do have to say it was hard to crumb and narrow these books down. When I made the list, I originally had about 15 books plus on the list, and I knew that I couldn't. I just couldn't talk about 15 books or 20 books without like losing my mind. So without further ado anyways, let me start with the first book that I absolutely loved in 2021. These books are not in order, by the way. It's just that this book was, as soon as I was making the list, it was the first book on the list. Okay, and that book is It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. I mean, are you surprised? I don't think you're surprised, because most of you found me on my video that I did on my vlog that I did reading this book. So I'm pretty sure you're not surprised. This is a book that left a lasting impact on my life. I still think about this book up to this day. I mean, I do understand that some people do say that this is not a romance book, and I do get it. I do understand why that is. It's more of like a women fiction book, but there was nowhere else to put it. I had to put it in this category, romance, you know, because it goes in there as well. So yeah, this is a book that I absolutely loved, fell in love with. The subject matter in this book is so strong and is so beautiful. I learned a lot from this book. I learned a lot from Lily, from Atlas, right? Like I learned a lot from all of these characters, that there was no way that this book wasn't going to be on this list. I'm not going to give you a synopsis of this book. A very popular book anyways. I'm pretty sure you already know. And if you are very curious how I was reading this, I will include my reading vlog down below so you can go and check that vlog out and enjoy. Okay, enjoy me crying, enjoy me smiling, enjoy me getting angry, like just enjoy everything. This book took me on a roller coaster and I was like, oh my god, but I absolutely loved it. This is definitely one of my favorite books of 2021. I believe this is also going to be a film, which I'm very nervous about because I do find that sometimes film adaptation ruin books. Okay, they ruin the characters, and I don't know. So fingers crossed that they do it justice and it comes out like I imagine it will come out. Although I don't think that would happen. By the way, I got my phone again because I made notes on my phone. You know, and as we know here, I'm not good at giving synopsis. So if you like a sound of any book that I talk about in this video, please do your own research, look up your own synopsis, look up your own trigger warnings. Like, yeah. I'm just here to say that I love these books. The second book I have on the list is this one here, The Fine Print by Lauren Asher. This book, I absolutely loved this book. This book was a joy to read. You know, when you read a book and it puts a smile on your face, this was this book for me. That's the experience I had reading this book. I absolutely loved the characters, Rowan and Zahra. This book was magical. It is a book that transported me into a different world, and I was here for it. Like, I was here for it. I'm gonna try and give you a quick synopsis of this book. This book is set in a dreamland, which is like Disneyland, and our main character, the hero, Rowan, his grandfather dies. So this is going to be a series of books about brothers. His grandfather dies, leaves him a will telling him to work in dreamland, rebuild dreamland. Rowan was a dreamer. He lost his spark. He used to be creative. He no longer is creative. Zahra works in dreamland and she creates rides, and she sends in a drunken proposal saying that one of the rides in dreamland doesn't work, should be done differently, like just going in. And somehow Rowan ends up employing her. They end up working together, and it's just a story about them, really, and it's about him finding his magic again and finding his creativity again. And you know how much I love creativity, and finding himself again, and Zahara also just finding herself and following her dreams. I love the disability representation in this book. I loved the diversity in this book. Honestly, this book will stay with me for a lifetime, and it's honestly one of my favorite books that I read in 2021. The third book that I absolutely loved in 2021 is called Black Sheep by Tabitha Vargo, and this is a story between Tyson and Nicole. Let me read you the synopsis because I don't want to butcher it. So it says, ever since the day I was dropped at her family's door, hungry, dirty, and torn, I wanted her. But to tint her perfect skin with my black touch would be a sin. So I made a pact with myself, never touch Nicole Palmer. However, when she returns home from college, she's different, and I am not sure I can trust myself to keep my pact. I cannot submit to her temptation, no matter how sweet she begs, because she's the golden child and I am the black sheep. So this is a book that honestly made me cry. It made me cry. It made me think a lot about life. So we follow Tyson, who has had a really tough upbringing. In the prologue, we get to see what he's going through as a child, what happens to him, and how he ends up in the Palmer's household. I don't actually remember whether Palmer's like the neighbor. I don't know how he ends up. Like, I forgot that bit in my mind. It's gone. But I know he ends up there because obviously he lost both of his parents. He has no guardian. He has nobody looking after him. And they take him in and goes there. He meets Nicole. And it's sort of like a childhood friends to lovers sort of situation. So he meets her, but because of everything that he's been through in life, like, he's a broken hero. This is a book that is about a broken hero who has to build himself, who has to find himself, who has to know that he's worth of love. And it's just the whole story about that, and this girl also finding herself and growing up because they've grown up together. I mean, it did get a little bit annoying and pushed sort of thing, but I understood why it had to be like that for these two characters. Yeah, it was a really, really beautiful story. I absolutely loved it. I don't see a lot of people talk about this book. I don't even know if people know about this book, but yeah, I absolutely loved this book. The next book, which is book number 4, is Twisted Games. I mean, this is a book that I had a smile on my face reading. So it's a little bit different from the last one that I talked about. This is more like a happy sort of book. It is a bodyguard romance. It's forbidden romance because our main character is a princess. So Bridget is a princess and Reese is her bodyguard. Now, this is a series. So the first book in the series is called Twisted Games. I believe I didn't enjoy that book as much as I enjoyed Twisted Games. So that's why it's not on this list. I think I gave the first book in the series 3 stars. I was even debating whether to continue with the series, but I'm so glad and so happy that I continued with the series and I read this book right here, because I absolutely love this book. And what I loved about this book is we got to see the hero and heroine, like, over 10 years of them like working together, falling in love, and all of these things. So as I said, it is about a princess and the bodyguard. And yeah, look up the synopsis, because it's really hard to explain the synopsis. But yeah, this was definitely one of my favorite books that I loved in 2021. Next book, which is book number 5, is called Most of All You by Mia Sheridan. Now, the funny thing about this book is I went on my Kindle. Did I say how I read most of these books? So I read this book on my Kindle. So I went on my Kindle looking for a book to read, and I was like, oh, let me look up Mia Sheridan, because I know she has a very, very, very popular book called Archer's Voice, which is what I was planning to read when I went on my Kindle. I was like, oh, let me go on there and finally read Archer's Voice. But I was like, you know what? I don't want to read this book on my Kindle. I want to read it physically. So I made a decision to read this book instead, Most of All You. I still haven't read Archer's Voice. It is on my TBR. Like, I will read it at some point in 2022, inshallah. So I still need to buy it because I don't have the physical copy. So I'm not going to read it until I buy the physical copy. Anyways, it's a bit like Ugly Love, you know, it's a bit like those type of books where you're like, I want to read them physically. So anyway, I ended up reading Most of All You, and I ended up loving this book. I ended up falling in love with these characters. I ended up crying, okay, like crying and smiling and learning so much life lessons. Like, I love romance books where I learn life lessons, where they touch my heart, where they make me cry a little bit, you know. And yeah, and that book did not disappoint. So this book, we follow, what's their name? Ellie and Gabriel. Now, Gabriel had a tough life. Like, he went through some really messed up stuff in his childhood. Like, he's just had a tough life. And Ellie has also had a tough life, but because of what Gabriel went through, he finds himself as an adult not being able to be comfortable with touchy, with human touch, connections, and all of these things. And because of that, he decides to go to a strippers club. I think that's what it is. And when he goes on there, he makes eye contact with Ellie. And as soon as he looks at her, he could tell that she herself is somehow broken. Like, there is something there that just connects them together. And he ends up wanting like to help her. He ends up asking her to help him with his problem. And this is a book that honestly shows you that unless somebody is ready to work on themselves and to accept love and all of these things, nothing can happen. And that's what I loved about this book. So it's about them two falling in love and healing. And yeah, and I honestly enjoyed this book. It's in my mind. All these books that I'm talking about are books that are in my mind rent free. They live there. These characters live in my mind rent free. And I thought, you know what, I'll share them with you, so you all can go and read them. Or maybe you have read some of these books and these characters are living in your mind rent free, okay? And we can talk about that. Actually, comment down below and let me know some of your favorite books that you have read and those characters live in your mind rent free. You can be on a bus, you can be walking, and you're thinking about them. You're like, I wonder how they do it. I do that. Like, I do that sometimes with characters, and I'm like, I wonder how they are. Like, I close the book, I finish reading about them, but I'm still thinking about how they're doing. Is that normal behavior? Or is something wrong with me? I don't know. Next book, which is book 6 on the list, is Thorne. This is a different one from all of the other books that I have talked about. This is Thorne book 1. So this is a series by Karina Cole, and the tropes in this book is a forbidden romance, age gap, and taboo romance. So I have to give you all of those tropes, so if you do go like pick it up or look it up so you know what you're going in for. Those are the tropes of this book. And this book we follow, is it Casey and Thor? And it's a very weird book to explain. It's also, this book is also dad's best friend. So all of those tropes are in there. Dad's best friend is definitely a big one. And then all of the other tropes come under that, I think. So it's basically about this girl who ends up falling in love with her dad's best friend. Dad's best friend has sort of like raised her. When I say it's taboo and age gap and all of that, it's honestly all of those things. But I enjoyed this book, but I would understand why people wouldn't like this book, and it made it to my favorite of the year because I love a good age gap romance. I love a little bit of a taboo romance. Like I love all of those things. I like reading things like this because I want to open my mind up a little bit more. Like I want to know things outside of what I know. Although having said that, there are certain books I cannot read. I love this book. So the next one that I loved was, which is book number 7, The Kiss Caution. Book is so beautiful. Absolutely loved this book. I think I'm gonna read you the synopsis of this book because I don't think I'm going to do it justice explaining it. Right, so it says here, it's high time for Stella Lane to settle down and find a husband. Also, her mother tells her, this is no easy task for a wealthy, successful woman like Stella, who also happens to have Asperger's. Analyzing data is easy. Handling the awkwardness of one-on-one date is hard. To overcome her lack of dating experience, Stella decides to hire a male escort to teach her how to be a good girlfriend. First with mountaining bills, Michael decides to use his good looks and charm to make extra cash on the side. He has a very firm no repeat customer policy, but he's tempted to bend that rule when Stella approaches him with an unconventional proposal. The more time they spend together, the harder Michael falls for this discerning woman with a beautiful mind, and Stella discovers that love defines logic. So that is what this book is about. I'm pretty sure you already know because this book is very famous, very famous, very popular. I absolutely love this book. I loved learning about Asperger's, is that the right word? I just loved Stella and Michael. Stella and Michael will always have a special place in my heart. I enjoyed reading this book so much. It made me smile. It made me like get butterflies in my stomach, and I was honestly rooting for Stella and Michael. This book is written in third person, just so you know. I'm a big fan of third person writing, but the way the author writes this book is just honestly beautiful. The next book that I loved was Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hebert. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And this is the story between Chloe and Redford. This book is also written in third person. Again, I don't like third person writing, but this was done so right and so beautifully that I absolutely just loved it. This is a very famous, because it's a series. There is Get a Life, Chloe Brown, Take a Hint, Danny Brown, and something else, another one that I don't know. I haven't read all of the books, so I can't really talk about all of the books. I read Get a Life, Chloe Brown on my Kindle, and then I decided that I wanted to buy the whole series. So I stopped reading until I buy the whole series, and I read the other 2 physically. That's the only reason why I haven't continued. Not because I don't love the book, obviously. It's made it onto my favorites of the year, so I love it. So one time, Chloe Brown is walking and she has a near-death experience, and her life flashes before her eyes, and she decides to write a list of things that she would like to do, like a bucket list. And one of those things was move out of her parents' home. So she moves out to this apartment, and she meets this guy who works there, called Red. He rides a motorcycle, he has tattoos. Like, he's just a guy that you look at and you straight away like have your own idea of who he is. And because of that, when Chloe decides that she wants to do something bad, she forms a relationship with him. And is it a relationship? No, she sort of asks him to help her complete her list. But along the way, obviously, she ends up finding finding out more about him, and he ends up finding more about her. And it's just their journey of them falling in love. It was honestly so cute. I think Red is honestly one of my favorite book boyfriends. I absolutely loved him. I loved how considerate he was of Chloe. Like every little thing he did, taking in consideration about her illness. And I also loved finding out more about the illness that Chloe has, which I think chronic pain. I don't actually want to say the wrong thing, so I'll put it on the screen when I research the name of the illness that she does have. And yeah, I really enjoyed finding out more about that. Yeah, it was just honestly a beautiful story. It did stay in my heart and it made me smile, and I was definitely rooting for these two characters. So we are coming on to the last two books, and these books are not in any particular order. As I said, I just wrote them, and that's how, they turned out to be. So book number 9 is no other than The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. This is the book that I read at the beginning of this year, and I absolutely fell in love with this book. Okay, I even bought it. I have it here, physical copy. I absolutely love Josh and Lucy. My God, I also have a reading vlog for this, so I'll include it. I'll link it down below or put it in the cards somewhere. I loved this book so much. Josh and Lucy, again, just like all of the other characters, live in my head rent free. Okay, they don't pay rent, but they are constantly there. And I've seen the trailer of the film. I haven't seen the film. I don't even know how I feel about the film. I didn't like the trailer. This is the reason why I didn't like the trailer. Why is it that in this day and age, you watch a trailer and you feel like you've seen the entire film? Somebody please comment and let me know why that is. Like, you see it and you're like, oh, well, I don't need to go cinemas now, or I don't need to rent out this movie because I already know what happens. And that's what happened in The Hating Game. Like, you saw the whole trailer. Like, they showed the beat in the lift when they like kissed, and I was like, that was the surprise in the book. Why is it being shown in the trailer? Somebody please let me know. Okay. Let's forget about that and come back to the book. Okay, let's come back to the book. I absolutely loved Josh and Lucy's story. So this is the enemies to lovers. I'm sure I don't need to explain this book. I am pretty sure you know what this book is about already, okay? I just wanted to show you that it did make it to my favorite this year, and I absolutely loved it. Final book, which is book number 10, is no other than Marriage for One by Ella Macy. Marriage for One, I loved this book. I read this book this year, the beginning of this year, and I absolutely loved this book. Okay, I think some people don't like it. Some people don't love this book as much as I love this book. And I'm very sad about that. But that's okay. That's okay. We all have different reading tastes. That's the beauty of it all. This is a book. Let me read you the tropes in this book. So we've got Marriage of Convenience. We've got, this is a slow burn, by the way. This book is a slow burn. But I love slow burns. Like, I'm here for them. I love them. We've got Grumpy and Sunshine, and just beautiful. So this book will follow Jack and Rose, and yes, Jack and Rose is the characters from Titanic. I mean, not the characters, but the names from Titanic. And it's funny that actually Rose in the book talks about that. She's like, yeah, it's a bit cheesy. Our names are like from Titanic. Loved it, loved this book, honestly. Marriage of Convenience. So this book, the way this book starts, I was a bit put off. I was like, what the hell am I reading? And why is this book starting like this? This is a bit weird and a bit strange. But the more you read, is the more you fall in love with the book, and it's the more you understand. So yeah, so it's Marriage of Convenience. So what happens is Rose's uncle ends up, I think, dying. and he leaves her this building. But in order for her to get this building, she has to be married, and she was due to get married, but then her fiance ended up like canceling the wedding and dumping her. And because of that, she ends up in Jack's office, who is a lawyer, and then he offers to marry her so that she can get this building and she can finally open her cafe. He's such a grumpy person. He doesn't really talk to anyone. And this woman is so like sunshine, and she's so happy. And I just loved like their little chemistry and their little relationship. And she kept on like counting the amount of times he smiled or anything like that. But what I loved most about this book was the hero. Like, the hero is such a sweetheart. He's just a grumpy person, but once he finds the one, like all the little things he did for Rose and the way he cared for her, you could just tell how much he loved her, and I was definitely here for all of that. So those are all the books that I'm going to talk about in this video. I hope you have enjoyed this video. I hope you have found some new books that you like in this video. Do comment down below and let me know what has been some of your favorite books that you read in 2021, because I really want to know and I want us to have a conversation about that. And yeah, so don't forget to give this video a like so that I know you liked it. Don't forget to share with a friend who you think might be interested in my video. And also don't forget to subscribe, because it massively helps me out. I want to grow our family and I'm super excited, and hopefully this continues. Like, I continue recording videos and releasing videos every week. Okay, like, put me in your good thoughts, put me in your prayers, wish me luck, okay? But anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video. Lots of love. Mwah! Bye.